Hello everybody, welcome to this new series I'm starting where I basically go over really bad contracts players have received in free agency. This first installment is obviously about Timofey Mozgov. I'm planning on continuing the series with other sports, so NFL, MLB contracts, as well as NBA. If you have any suggestions for someone who you want to see, let me know in the comments below, and without any further ado, here is the Timofey Mozgov story. It's quite an interesting one. Timofey Mozgov didn't really have a normal route to the NBA as most others. Mozgov spent most of his early basketball career playing in Russia for EuroLeague teams. Eventually, though, in 2011, he was signed by the Knicks, and then went on to play for 5 seasons with Denver after that. Mozgov was never really anything special, just a solid backup center. He would start some games here and there, but never really got consistency starting. He had a decent career with the Nuggets, double digits in points, and getting a good amount of rebounds per game. Nothing special, but a solid player, and definitely a good backup center by all stretches. However, Mozgov was eventually shipped to the Cavs, who had just gotten LeBron back from Miami and had the big three of LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. This team desperately needed a center, however, because they were really undersized with the big men, since they only had Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love and some other nobodies who weren't good enough. Mozgov played pretty well for the Cavs. He was mainly just a big body to collect rebounds and roll to the basket, a sound fundamental player. He helped the Cavs reach the NBA Finals and was alright in the playoffs. Nothing special, nothing like a Bismack Biyombo or anything. The next year, he helped the Cavs win the NBA championship, but during that year, he played more of a backup role instead of being the starter. Again, solid, good player. So, in the 2016 offseason, you would have expected Timofey Mozgov to receive a decent contract to be a backup center for maybe a contending team, maybe a starting center for a rebuilding team, something like that, but he got a 4-year, $64 million deal to go to the Lakers. 4 years, $64 million. Now, this was during the 2016 offseason that was particularly infamous because of the huge cap spike that had a lot of role players and other decent players get huge contracts, but this was probably the worst of all of them. You see, when the Lakers signed him, it didn't even make sense. There wasn't even optimism when he was signed. Mozgov really didn't have any skills that would make you think he was worth that money. He didn't have a shot, he wasn't an anchor defensively, and his offensive production was basically just limited to finishing pick and rolls and tipping in rebounds. I mean, at least the other signing the Lakers made that offseason, which was also really bad, in Luol Deng, who got probably even a worse contract in terms of output since that contract, as Luol Deng has barely played ever since then. At least he was a former All-Star and All-NBA defensively. At least they knew they were getting a guy who had potential to be really good and had been really good in the past. Mozgov wasn't good in the past, really, and didn't have any skills to prove that he would be good. There's a few reasons I guess the Lakers were thinking this was a good deal. He was a veteran presence on a very young team with very young big men. And also the Lakers just needed a center. They just needed someone to play center. The only other center they had was a second-round rookie. So yeah, not a lot of depth at center. Mozgov didn't really play that much for the Lakers because he was bad. He would eventually get shipped along with D'Angelo Russell to the Nets for Kyle Kuzma and Brook Lopez, and he was basically only thrown into that trade so that his contract could match Brook Lopez's contract, which was also a pretty bad contract, except nowadays he's actually proving that he is still a good player, so take what you will. And since then, Mozgov has since fizzled out of the league and now is playing back in Russia. Now, let's take a look at the pre-contract stats of Timofey Mozgov and the post-contract stats of Timofey Mozgov. And now tell me how you thought the Lakers thought that those pre-contract stats would actually mount up to something special, and then look at the output that they got. Pretty bad. Now, Timofey Mozgov, I'm sure he's a nice guy, and hey, I'm glad that he got some money. Hey, go live comfortably in life. That's all nice and dandy, but sorry, man, you had one of the worst contracts in NBA history.